Hello and welcome to the Sterling Podcast. I'm Julia Williams, your host, and today it is wonderful to welcome Holly Bond, who's the Director of Greener Options. Now, Greener Options are a proud, family owned and operated business that are based in the heart of Worcestershire. Now, they provide sustainable washroom and clinical waste solutions with a people first approach. Now, Holly's here to share all that she knows about this particular sector. So, Holly, welcome back. It's lovely to have you here.
Thank you.
So, look, what is Greener Options? Tell me all about it. Who are
So,
you and what do you do?
Greener Options, we were founded in 2006 by my absolutely superhero mother, Chris Bond, who, if you're in the washroom industry, if you don't know her, then I'm not sure you're worth knowing. Um, she is a complete legend in her own right. So, we started in 2006 and I started earning my pocket money. Uh, doing various filing things, photocopying, helping mum on the computer with dial up at that time. I can remember I had a little Dalmatians game that she had on her work computer, which I used to play on. But by the by, so fundamentally, we provide sustainable washroom services and clinical waste management solutions. So that's anything from the service and maintenance of sanitary bins, soap dispensers, air fresheners, water management systems, auto sanitizers for urinals, right through to non-hazardous and hazardous waste. So that could be anything from care homes for their offensive waste. It could be children's nappies from nurseries, right through to tattooists, dentists, vets,
Wow.
to weird and wonderful type of waste. Could be controlled drugs, snake venom. We've also got our ABP license for animal byproducts. So we've got a job coming up shortly for pigs from university. So we do all sorts of weird and wonderful things.
The list
Uh,
goes on and on.
yeah, no day's the same, and that's why I love it.
So, what led you then to join the family business? Is it because you literally grew up in the sector and it sounds to me like you know literally everything there is to know about it?
Well, so when Mum was first in the washroom sector, I can remember going into her big office in Birmingham. There was an underground car park which she drove in, and she was very, very good at what she did. She had her own little car parking space, which, if I tell you, at the time was like a major thing if you had this car parking space in this underground car park. And I used to go in when I was little and I would go out with her and do washroom audits. We would go and she would say to her clients or her managing agents, look, my daughter's with me today, it's the school holidays and, they've all got to start somewhere, they've got to learn. And I would sit with her and I would go through what she was doing, how she was doing it, what type of building it was, what types of equipment in there. And for me, sort of went to university. I wasn't really too sure what I wanted to do, but Mum
Mm.
had always said, just do something that you enjoy. And there was a very hard line when I went to college that because I said, oh, well, I'll just come and work for you. And she was like, no, you're going to go and you're going to get your education and you're going to see what you like, see what you don't like, and then we can go from there. So
Wow.
when I was at college, I had my own service run, which were Gloucester and Cheltenham. And the joke was, you do your runs and then I'll put money on your card so you can eat at lunchtime because I lived away down at Hartpury. So that's sort of how it all started, really. And then I then went to university. Was coming out. Mum had a great idea of a solidifying powder for tattooists,
Right.
which has sort of derived from our sister company options. And she said, "Look, I've got this idea. I've got this product. Do you want to bring it to market?" And I'm
Wow.
a yes girl. And I was like, yeah, okay, we'll give it a whirl. So I then spent the next 2 to 3 years completely immersed in the tattoo industry, traveling all around the country to all different tattoo conventions, promoting this product. At the time, we called them sponsored artists. Now it would be called influencers, I suppose.
Oh.
And we used to then do the waist. And then it got to a point where I wanted my weekends back because they were over Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So after about 3 years, we sold the product, which was called black powder. And I then thought, well, what am I going to do now? And at the time, there was a few gaps within the office for Mum. So she just said, look, what can you help? And then that's sort of where it's all started from, really. I'm still go out on the vans when I need to. More than happy to. I could also drive a lorry. I've got my ADR license for carriage of dangerous goods. So when I rock up at the incinerator, it's, with eyelashes, nails, makeup. It's, but I love it. Absolutely love it. And we've
How
just gone
long?
from strength to strength.
How long have I known you and not known any of this? I did not know this about you, or even could imagine you doing all of that. That's amazing.
And
So,
it's some of the things I've seen.
so looking back, at like the early days, what have you learned along the way?
I think a lot of it is about watching. I learn by watching and doing rather than listening or reading.
Yeah,
And for me, it's all about people. And Mum
true.
has said that all along.
Mm.
But I think when you're young, you're a little bit wet behind the ears, and you always think that you know best. But she's absolutely right. It is about people, and it's about what makes them tick and gets the best
100%.
out of them. Because
Yeah.
at the end of the day, I've had no, what I would call, apart from my ADR license, I've had no formal training in waste or washroom. But I have been surrounded by, and I can tell you, the manufacturer of bins or what refills are going to be in it, or, oh, well, I
Mm.
know that washroom company and who owns it. And,
Mm.
we're part of the Independent Washroom Services Association, which is something which really needs to be elevated for companies out there to look at when they're looking at their washroom services,
Mm.
because you then get a local company, a local approach, that if you then do have a national contract for varying offices across the country, they can still be dealt with through your local supplier, rather
Mm.
than maybe needing to go to one of the much larger companies where you're just a call center.
True, true. So look, the joke is between you and I. You spend an awful lot of time in toilets, right?
Love them.
Why?
Since I was little, doing a washroom audit in a bathroom, that's one of the main things which is ingrained. So the first thing when I walk in, what does it smell like? So then I look and see, well, what air freshener system have they got in? Have they got one in? Have they maybe got an air sterile unit in? And then I look at the soap dispensers. Is it a bulk fill? Is it a foam? Is it manual? Is it auto? If they got, how many sinks have they got? And then you go into the cubicle, what sanitary bin have they got? I have a real big pet hate of the sanitary bin liners sitting on the bin,
Right?
because I don't think it looks good. That's just my personal preference. Toilet roll when you get in there, is it what type it is? Is the dispenser hanging off the wall? Have you got a little modesty bag which you could put sanitary ware in before it goes into the toilet? Have you got a toilet seat sanitizer when you come out and you've washed your hands, and what was the soap like? Has it left your hands feeling dry? Do they feel quite nourished? What type of thing are you drying your hands with? Is it just a green or blue paper towel? What does the dispenser look like? Or have you got hand dryers? Is all the water down the back of the dryer? It's all small things which we unconsciously notice.
And it's so you're saying all of this, and as you're going through it, I'm thinking, oh yeah, yeah, yeah. But generally, people just go to the toilet, come out. Why is it important though for businesses to consider all those things, or at least have somebody like you to consider these things for them?
I think one of the main considerations is the type of people that are then coming in to use the facilities which you're um, upkeeping. So,
Mm.
is it staff? Is it employees? And if I say to you, for every one bad bathroom experience, the
Mm.
ripple effect goes out to 15. We've all been there, whether it's in a restaurant or whether it's been in a workplace, that you go into the toilet and you think, wow, these toilets are amazing. You then go to the next person and go, toilets, they are amazing. But the same also goes with bad toilets. If you go in and there's no toilet roll, maybe the soap's run out,
Mm.
maybe there's no hand drying facility, or they're just not very good quality, that also has the same ripple effect because unconsciously, when we go into any washroom, we subconsciously make a assumption on that business, and that is then taken and it's carried to whether we tell someone else or how we then feel about that company or about that restaurant or maybe a
That's
bar.
100% true. I've been out and to restaurants, and it's been wonderful, the restaurant, and I've gone to the washroom, and I'm like so disappointed, and then it puts me off. And that's the
Yeah,
first thing you do, like, oh my God, I've just been to the toilet and it was awful.
yeah,
And likewise, I've been to places where it's amazing, and you're dragging your friends along, come on, and you wanting to show it off.
yeah.
You are so right in what you've just said. So right indeed. What do you think, toilets say about the values of that company to other people, though?
I think when it comes to value, it's showing that you care. It's showing that you've thought outside of the box. You've thought
Mm.
about the people that are going to be interacting with you as a
Mm.
company, whether that's from a hospitality setting or visitors that are coming to visit your site.
Mm.
We all know that if we've been to a bathroom that in a hospitality setting, if the bathroom's not great, if this is how they treat their washroom and this is a customer facing, what does the kitchen look like? And
Oh, yeah.
then that self doubt starts. So it's just those small things about how the company has considered its users.
Mm.
One of the great things that a lot of people are getting on board with is period dignity. So having
Mm.
free friend products or your sanitary wares, whether it's towels or tampons, in a little basket on the side that you help yourself, that it's there just in case.
Yeah.
Not because they have to, but they're putting it
Mm.
there as a just in case. It could, a little bit like when you go in and there might be some nice smellies on the
Mm.
side, like, or some deodorant or anything. Just it those small things actually have a really big impact because that customer or that employee then feels valued. They feel that you've gone out of your way
Mm.
and that you really care about them. So therefore, if if they feel cared for and they feel valued, then your efficiencies from that person or their want to spend is going to be greater.
Yeah. I really do think that you are. Yeah, I do. I do. What's your opinion? Times are changing. The role of women looking after children, and now it's more shared, and sanitary towels in toilets. What's your view on maybe having nappy and baby changing facilities in male toilets now?
Absolutely. I think that this comes back to another value piece
Mm.
that it's not just women who look after their children. I think if you look at it from a man's point of view, if they're kids and they need to change a nappy, are they going to want to stand in a disabled queue for a toilet, perhaps with somebody that maybe does need an accessible toilet that's behind them? They're going to feel embarrassed because ultimately, in their minds, they're thinking, well, I don't actually need this toilet because this toilet needs to be used by the person that it's aimed for. Whereas, having that nappy changing within a men's environment, or even just having an inclusive toilet that anyone can go to, rather than, I think we're all very good at labeling,
Yeah.
like, oh, well, it's the disabled toilet, oh, it's the accessible toilet.
Mm.
Well, no, perhaps maybe flipping it on its head that it's an inclusive toilet.
Yes.
So that people then aren't feeling that pressure. The other thing as well is, particularly with the accessible toilets, is you've got the radar key. I don't know what bloke has a radar key. So it's a special key that you have, which opens a lot of the accessible toilets. So if the baby changing is in the ladies' toilets,
Mm.
a guy can't go in there. So, and also he then can't get into the accessible toilet either. So what does he do? Balance his child on the, I think it comes back to that value. I think one of the
Mm.
other things that we're seeing hugely within the washroom industry as a whole, and this is something that the IWSA is pushing massively, is the need for sanitary bins in men's toilets. So, as a lady, without being too graphic, if you suddenly go to the toilet and it's your time of the month, 90% of us have a handbag or we have something. So if something happens, you wrap it up, you pop it in your handbag and you take it home. For a man, if they have perhaps a stoma bag, perhaps they've got prostate issues, wearing sanitary wear, where do they put that
Yeah.
when they're in a cubicle?
Mm.
You know, from a dignity point of view, you're not going to want to walk out with it in your hand to then put
No.
it in the bin that's outside the toilet. And I think everyone deserves to have that right,
Mm.
that there is somewhere that is accessible, there is somewhere that they can dispose of those products discreetly, and that they're not feeling that their dignity is being looked at, I suppose.
Mm. All of this sounds to me like it comes down to education, though, because like the average business person or someone running, could be a restaurant or a school, when we go to the toilet, we don't think about these things.
No.
So when you approach businesses or they approach you, are these the sorts of conversations then that you make them aware of? How do we educate more businesses to understand all the things that you're talking about?
I 100% agree with you with the education, and I do think it's the awareness.
Mm.
A lot of the time, people aren't aware of the things that are out there. They aren't aware of why we might do something. For an example, we've
Mm.
got a client site which is open to the public. We installed sanitary bins into the men's toilets for that issue because the company were aware that they wanted to be inclusive. They wanted to support men as well as women for, again, coming back to everybody's needs, not just sanitary bins in the ladies. And we had a phone call that or the bins in one particular toilet were vandalised and they were graffitied all over the bin. And again, I think that comes down to people not understanding.
Yeah.
I think sometimes people have the perception that because a sanitary bin is in a male toilet, that it's to do perhaps with how people identify. But
Yeah.
it's not that at all. It's that having the facility to dispose of sanitary ware wherever you are going to the toilet, whether
Mm.
however you identify. And I think that there is this huge piece around I think there is something to be done in businesses as a whole, but likewise, it always comes back to cost. People see the cost for their sanitary bins in ladies' toilets, but they maybe might not see the let's say return on investment, shall I say?
Yeah,
But
of
actually,
course.
your return on investment comes back to you valuing your employee or you valuing your customer, and that piece, because people vote with their feet,
They
and
do.
you don't know from an employee perspective of have you lost people because you've got bad bathrooms.
True, true. In terms of greener options, I know greener options are very much focused on sustainability and being environmentally friendly. How do you help reduce the environmental footprint?
So for us, looking at our equipment, we look at recycled plastic dispensers rather than virgin plastic where possible.
Mm,
Sometimes it can't be helped depending on where you're at, but we look at making the right choice while still being commercially for us and for the customer.
mm,
One of the big things at the moment, we use sugarcane toilet paper, and that's we provide a lot of that into clients. It helps with the breakdown of the paper, so you don't get as many blockages, and also you have a product which is derived from waste rather than your traditional paper, which is your virgin material of wood. So there's lots of ways and lots of ideas, I suppose, and different products that you could look at. One of the things is sachet cleaning products. So 80% of what we transport around the country is water. Why are we doing that?
mm,
It's in our taps. You can
mm,
reduce your carbon footprint on your cleaning products by 95%, and that's one switch, one help, and but it makes a huge difference. So anyone that's looking at sustainable agendas, maybe they're going towards B Corp. I think we all look at how much paper we're printing, what are the credentials on the storage facilities that we're using for our iClouds and data storage, like what are their green credentials?
mm,
People walking, cycling to work rather than driving, but your washroom for us is something that affects everyone from the CEO down to the cleaning operative.
mm,
It's somewhere that everyone can see that you're making a difference, and you can do quite a lot in a very small area
yeah.
by perhaps changing the type of soap that you use, by changing the paper, depending if you want to go on hand dryer or paper towel, or there's all different ways, that there's lots of ways that you could make very small changes but that ultimately could make a big difference.
So, what challenges do you come up against? You're promoting sustainability and reducing the environmental footprint, but you must come up against some challenges with some companies. So, what are those challenges at times?
I think some of it comes back to cost
Mm,
because, as you touched on earlier, you go to the toilet and you it's just something that we do because we have to go.
mm.
We don't think about that process. We
You
don't
don't.
think about that added value, or we don't think about what
Mm,
products or what happens within that area.
mm,
So I think sometimes coming back to the cost, and people think, oh, sustainability, it's going to be loads more expensive. Well, actually, it might be a little bit more expensive.
mm,
Actually, it's looking at the value perception versus cost, because we are not a stack it high and sell it cheap type of business. We are very much person focused. You ring the office and we want to know, you know, how your daughter got on at sports day, or how your dog is if it was going to the vets, or you're
yeah.
speaking to the same people. So for us, it's about showing that added value and showing what we offer as an organisation away from action of you're having 13 services a year for your sanitary bin, and the driver will turn up 13 times to empty that waste, and that waste is going to the incinerator. Here's your invoice, thank you very much. That's never how we've operated.
So, Holly, look, there's so many different innovations and initiatives that are in store, and there's exciting times ahead. So, how do you see waste management and sustainability evolving over the next 5 to 10 years?
I think there's varying thought processes. I think
Mm,
technology is going to come into the fold more with Washroom, particularly with maybe having a washroom system rather than us manually checking soaps, toilet roll levels, sanitary bin levels. So driving efficiencies based off of data, because data is something which we're given more and more and more, and you can have data off virtually anything now. So one of the main areas I do think that for certainly higher volume sites or more spread out sites, rather than having operatives going in, checking if the soaps are full, checking if the toilet roll is at a suitable level, I think we will be seeing more and more technology coming into bathrooms.
right.
I think on another train of thought is ultimately when we're incinerating of waste, because there's this huge argument over what is better,
Mm,
um, landfill, incineration. We choose energy from waste. So that is incinerated and the energy goes to power the plant. But then the ash that comes at the bottom is what goes into the bottom of the roads,
oh,
which that is a sustainable way. However, what the argument is some people are saying that the waste shouldn't be being disposed of to start with. Is there something that can be done where it's treated in some way so that then we then have a recycled material back?
mm,
So sanitary products as a whole, you have a lot of plastic. Is there something that could be done there? So I do think you are going to see some developments from that side, but obviously it's huge cost for the infrastructure and for equipment, and it's just how what that looks like and then what it looks like for us
yeah,
as a waste company to then be taking waste into varying
yeah,
sites, and how quickly that, I don't want to say jumped on the bandwagon, but
of course.
different sites across the country. It might be a really popular thing perhaps around London,
Mm,
but for us, A, financially, and B, operationally, us going down to London to dispose of waste isn't economically viable
no.
nor operationally making any sense. So it's just how that looks, what it looks like across the country. But I do think that in some ways, COVID was a really good thing by educating us all on the cross contamination, how things are picked up, how if somebody touches something and then somebody else touches it, you could then get maybe a cold or a cough or unfortunately COVID at that time.
Sure.
Um, but us then looking and saying, okay, so if we can reduce down those levels by better hand hygiene, by having hand sanitizers still, rather than them just being oh, well, that was from COVID. But the 9 times out of 10, I challenge anyone to go and put their hand underneath a hand sanitizer and will it dose or is it empty? Because my argument is if it's empty, then people have been using it. So
Yeah.
why aren't you refilling it?
Mm, mm,
There are people out there, and I think it comes back to that education of, we were highly vigilant in COVID, and I think
mm,
some of that has started to tail off. But I do think that from a work perspective, if you have good hand hygiene, good facilities in order to do that, then perhaps then your sicknesses within the office could then be reduced because everyone's then washing their hands correctly. They might be hand sanitizing and all the rest of it.
Well, Holly, thank you so much. It's really incredible to listen to you because you've got such knowledge and expertise, and not only that, passion. So
Thanks.
it's fabulous to talk to you today. And it's really interesting to find out a little bit more about greener options and how they're helping just improve the waste management side of things. So thank you. So
Most welcome.
if you want to find out any more about Holly Bond and greener options, there will be some information on the link below. So thank you very much.
Thank you.